I went back that day and I had to tell my wife what had happened on the phone call. And that was potentially the hardest conversation out of all of this, because I didn't have any information. I didn't really know what any of this meant. I didn't know if this meant surgery, Googling things, and that's hard because you get a lot of worst case sort of stuff on Google. And I didn't want to frighten her first and foremost. So how do you start that conversation? The day I found out that they thought it needs more investigation and it could potentially be testicular cancer, because you never know 100% until they basically remove it. The doctor called at 9 o'clock that morning and I was on the radio. So I knew this phone call was happening. And again, I didn't tell anyone on my team, but I went out the room at 9 o'clock and I just said, I've got a personal call sort of thing. And they would have known something was up, because we don't really do that. But they knew enough that it was kind of unusual enough not to ask any questions. But on that phone call, the doctor said, look, your ultrasound is showing something unusual. In a lot of these cases, it really isn't anything serious or anything to worry about, but you've done the right thing by getting that ultrasound, and we're going to have to figure out what the next steps are. I'm going to put you forward for this cancer pathway that then happens. I sort of put the phone down and had to walk into the studio, and I remember just looking around and I've got like Jordan in front of me and Sean next to me and our team, and I just thought that was such a surreal moment, because I didn't tell anyone and I wasn't upset particularly. I just felt really kind of out of body in that situation, because you suddenly start trying to overthink every eventuality, and at the same time we're playing Sabrina Carpenter or something. It was just a really surreal moment. But being in a radio studio, just because it's been so many years now, it's just like you can sometimes leave a lot of stuff at the door, and actually that's the amazing situation you can be in on that show, that it can be a real big escape. That was a hard one, because I felt on my own, and I went back that day. I don't think I've spoken about this really, but I went back that day and I had to tell my wife what had happened on the phone call. And that was potentially the hardest conversation out of all of this, because I didn't have any information. I didn't really know what any of this meant. I didn't know if this meant surgery, Googling things, and that's hard because you get a lot of worst case sort of stuff on Google. And I didn't want to frighten her first and foremost. So how do you start that conversation? I came home from work and I had to say to her, look, I had an ultrasound yesterday, and that's the hardest conversation, because you're wanting to say that you've got what you've got, but without saying cancer. That was really tough to say, because I didn't want her to be scared. I found that conversation hard, and she couldn't have been more brilliant. I wish I stopped trying to overprotect her. What I mean by that is telling my wife was the best thing I could do. I stopped stressing about speaking about it. Actually, she was doing what she wants to do, which is look after me. I kind of feel like my ignorance on this could have put my family in jeopardy, because again, I don't know if other people feel like this. I don't care about what happens to me. I care about their reaction to what happens to me. And I'm always mindful of that. Even when I do silly, embarrassing things on the radio, they're kind of used to those things. But I do try to keep them private, and they're the most important people to me, my kids and my wife. And I just don't, I really hate how something so simple with this, that it couldn't have been avoided, but I do worry. I've been carrying around this thing for potentially a while. The consultant I spoke to said he reckons it could have been about 1.5 years. Me and my wife went to the doctors. He's basically talking through the side effects of chemotherapy, and we were sat there and we were having this very serious discussion. And then the end of that discussion, he goes, right, Chris, I'm just going to examine you one more time as well. This is just before the chemo. And so I go behind this curtain, and my wife sat on a chair on the other side. And he turns around to go get, whatever equipment it is that he's about to use, or put on a glove, that kind of thing. And I've just defaulted to sort of trousers down, pants down. And then he turns around. This is so bad because my wife could hear it all. And he says, I'm just going to have a little listen to your chest. It was so like, but there we are. That's what happens. My understanding is, if these things are left untreated, then yes, they can in theory spread. But you know what? It's every cancer, my understanding is far more treatable the earlier it's caught. This can be caught really early because it's located in one specific area. It can be treated really easily. If you need to have surgery, you're given 2 of them. So, you can fly with one engine, it's fine. It can be done. And you know what, the main thing here is find it early, get it treated, do whatever you need to do from there on in to keep that treatment going, or you be observed, or whatever it is, and ultimately survive. And that's how it's been described to me. So I imagine, left untreated, a few years down the line, this could have had a major impact on my life and my family's life. So it's just a massive blessing, and I feel really lucky that the way it's been described to me is that this has been found early, and that's not the case for everyone. And I really hope this doesn't, I don't want it. This isn't really a conversation about I'm fine. That's kind of irrelevant here. It's more the message of I feel very, very lucky that I found it early. So I'm hoping someone else sees this stuff and feels lucky that they've seen this message.